Welcome back to the 12 Days of Christmas. Now, in this discussion, we're going to talk about the person of Joseph. And Joseph is a critical character in the story of Jesus, and it's helpful to just take a look at a passage where it speaks of him directly. In Matthew chapter 1, verses 18 and 19, in the New Living Translation, we read, "This is how Jesus, the Messiah, was born. His mother Mary was engaged to be married to Joseph. But before the marriage took place, while she was still a virgin, she became pregnant through the power of the Holy Spirit. And Joseph, to whom she was engaged, was a righteous man and did not want to disgrace her publicly. So he decided to break the engagement quietly." Now, to understand what's happening here, you need to remember that an engagement during biblical times was so binding that it could only be dissolved by divorce. So while Mary and Joseph were not married yet, they were engaged. It wasn't a simple give back the ring and it's all over. These two people were engaged to be married. And in that process, one day, the angel told Mary that she was to have a child, not by human generation, but by the overwhelming Holy Spirit. Mary probably was looking forward to the day she would get married, and what would she say to Joseph when she all of a sudden said she was expecting a child? What we understand is that Joseph didn't know about it. And then we read in Matthew chapter 1, verse 19 that Joseph, when she was engaged, Joseph was a righteous man. So let me just explain that if I could. Righteous means he does the right thing in the right way. Joseph is a man who did right things, so imagine the shock momentarily when he discovers Mary's pregnant. If it had been any other man, he probably could have treated Mary cruelly. In fact, in biblical times, he could have had her stoned or divorced her publicly. He could have shamed her. But Joseph doesn't do that. He determines thoughtfully and gracefully that he will remove himself from the engagement. He will put her away quietly. He will just remove himself from that engagement. He will divorce her in a biblical sense of the term. And that brings us this other point. Not only was Joseph a righteous man doing right things in right ways, but he was a man of faith. He believed God and acted on those promises. In Matthew chapter 1, verses 20, here in the ESV, we read, "But as he considered these things, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, 'Joseph, son of David, do not fear to take Mary as your wife, for that which is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will bear a son, and you will call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins.'" Verse 22, "And all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel," which in parentheses there means God with us. "Then Joseph awakes from his sleep," and note this in the text, "he did as the angel of the Lord commanded him. He took his wife, but knew her not until she gave birth to the son, and he called his name Jesus." Joseph listens to the angel of the Lord and by faith acts upon that response. He believed God and he acted on those promises. He did exactly what the angel of the Lord commanded him to do. While not the biological father of Jesus, he would serve as the foster father, the adopted father of Jesus. As note of his faith also, I would just point out that there are two times in the biblical text when Joseph is astonished or he marvels at what takes place. One is 8 days after Christ was born, when he delivers Jesus to the temple to be dedicated. When he does that, Simeon, a prophet, steps forward and speaks and declares these incredible things about who Jesus was. And the text says that Joseph and Mary were astonished. They marveled at it as if to say, how could this be? This is an act of faith. Joseph acts on faith and yet waits to see that indeed Jesus was who the angel of the Lord claimed that he would be. And the other place where Joseph is astonished is at Jesus' 12th birthday, when Jesus is 12 and they go to the temple. And remember, Jesus is left at the temple in Jerusalem as Mary and Joseph return home. And when that happens, they come back and Mary and Joseph again are astonished at Jesus sitting there, and Jesus looks at them and says, "Did you not know I'd be in my Father's house?" In both cases, you see the faith of Joseph clear back. When Mary is expecting to give birth to Jesus, you see the faith of Joseph demonstrated because he doesn't know all that will happen, and that's why he's astonished. But by faith, he steps out. He believed God and acted on those promises. And finally, note one other thing. He wasn't only a righteous man. He wasn't only a man of faith, but he was a man who protected his family. In Matthew chapter 2, starting at verse 13, we read, "Now when they had departed, behold," that is, the wise men, the Magi, had departed. "Behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said," note this, the angel didn't appear to Mary. The angel appeared to Joseph, knowing good and well that Joseph would protect the baby Jesus. The angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Rise, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt, and remain there until I tell you. For Herod is about to search for the child," here it comes, "to destroy him." And he rose, and he took the child and his mother by night, and departed to Egypt, and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." Notice in this text that Joseph protects Jesus. He is a protector of the Son of God. Joseph was a righteous man, doing the right thing in the right way. He was a man of faith, believing God and acting on it. He was a protector of his family, willing to do anything to protect Jesus, God's Son. God chose wisely when he chose Joseph to be Mary's husband and the adoptive father of Jesus. He was righteous, a man of faith, and a protector of the family.